Hey guys, this is Animan, and welcome to an exclusive review that you can only find here on FilmBook. And today, I actually got a special animated feature film. So, yeah, this is actually pretty surprising. Me doing a review of an animated film, and this is not even my channel. What the fridge? I know, but what I got for you here is actually a very unique animated film. Not one that you would find easily in theaters, and not one that you would find familiar in terms of the people who made it, or even the company that made it. What I'm talking about is actually Bilal, a new breed of hero. And this is actually known to be the first ever fully animated Saudi Arabian feature film, considering that nowadays Saudi Arabia is starting to be a little bit more open to re-enter into the world of cinema. Now it does make sense that they would also have an animated film in their disposal, and hopefully it could be the sign that they could go and create a lot more animated feature films with it. Now, going into Bilal, some of you might be wondering, well, what is it that Bilal is about? Well, honestly, it's going to be pretty tough to explain, and for those reasons why, I will explain a little bit later, but I'll do the best I can. So, anyways, with Bilal, this is a 2015 animated feature film. It's computer animated, by the way, which is actually based on the true story of Bilal ibn Rabah. I hope I'm probably saying that name right, who is actually known to be a popular figure in the Muslim faith, who is known for his beautiful voice in order to bring in people to hear his prayers. And with that said, the whole story of Bilal, it pretty much looks into his life, where starting as a kid, he would grow up to be a slave to this master. But then later on, he would learn to grow and he would wish for freedom. But the big part of this movie, kind of like the big theme, is to be free from his inner chains. And this is something that his mother would tell him, that he should stop worrying about being free from, like, the masters, like, forget about the literal chains, like, be free from the chains that are inside, like, let go of the hate, let go of the revenge, and let go of all that in order to fully feel free, instead of feeling like you're a slave and you belong to someone else and you always feel inferior and all that kind of stuff. Like, Bilal really was a person that is trying to fight for equality. Now, I know that nowadays that is something that people are still trying to fight for, including the rights for African Americans and also for women's rights and all that kind of stuff. But even back then, it was a big thing that people are fighting for, and Bilal was known to be one of the biggest advocates for that. And that's what this movie is trying to explain, or at least I think is what it's trying to explain. You see, one of the biggest problems that I do have with this film is mostly with the tone of what this movie is trying to do, what this movie is trying to say with the story of Bilal. Maybe it's not the best way to explain the story, because let me give you guys a little bit of context. This is the first time that I would experience any form of the story of Bilal. I haven't read any of the different versions of the tale, or honestly just ever. This is my first ever experience with Bilal, and as a newcomer with the story, or as a newcomer to the story, I mean, with this movie, the tone just feels a little bit slow, and sometimes there are a lot of scenes that they would drag on, and that's what makes it a little bit difficult to really follow the story, or to really follow the elements that would be included with it. Now, I'm not saying that the story itself is bad. There are a lot of great elements that are into it. There are a lot of parts that are well connected. And also, I could definitely see a lot of the elements that are inspiring, how they are uplifting, and they do bring out a really good message about letting go of hatred, letting go of revenge, and the way of violence and all that kind of stuff is not the best way to go. It's best to have peace if you want to go and have equality. And with that said, like, those elements are pretty good. They already have a great foundation to work with It's just in the execution of the story, it just makes it a little bit difficult to follow. Or at least it makes it difficult to follow for newcomers like me. I'm pretty sure that people who are familiar with the Bilal story, they can follow it fine. They know what parts are where. And even the movie does try to advocate itself that it does its best to respectfully follow the story of Bilal. It even opens up with a bit of a title trying to say that even though they might have taken a bit of artistic liberties because this is an animated feature film, they do try very hard to stick to the heart and stick to the true story of Bilal. And with that said, the factor that this is an animated feature film, that actually is very interesting, and you do have to keep in mind that this is the first ever fully computer animated feature film made in Saudi Arabia, and in a way, it really does show, because one thing that I have noticed is that the animators treat this movie like a kid getting a brand new awesome action figure. Because the big thing with this movie is that you could tell that the animators just wants to go and they really want to try everything that they can. It's like, oh my god, this thing is so cool. Oh, I want to try to do this. Oh, hold on, let me try to do these shots. Oh, this is actually really fun. Oh, how about we just do this? You know, all of this is pretty much to say that you could tell that with all the different camera angles and all the different shots and the camera movements, they really want to try to do everything that they can. In a way, like, not only are they trying to make the movie, but they're also experimenting with the technology to see what kind of shots they can do, to see all the different things that they could do with computer animation. Like, they really are playing with the technology to the extreme. Now, how it is handled in itself, it is actually very interesting because there is a bit of a mix of good and bad. One thing that I was entirely shocked about is actually regarding the backgrounds, the layout, the production design, and also the textures. Those ones are absolutely phenomenal. They were very well crafted in order to represent Mecca in itself, and also all the different textures, like from the grains of sand to the wood to the stone and even some of the fur. And like even when you get a close-up on the characters, like when you see like the little hairs on their eyebrows or the ways that Bilal's hair can be braided, it's actually really amazing, and they really did pay attention to detail over there. So I would have to give major bonus points to them on creating that world. However, there is one downside I would have to give to the animation, considering that, again, this is the first animated feature film that is made in Saudi Arabia. You could tell that the characters, they need a lot of work. Now, the designs, I will say, it is okay, considering that this movie has a very down-to-earth, realistic tone. There's nothing too fantastical that would happen, except for probably one scene when suddenly Bilal becomes entirely made out of sand and stuff like that. There's mostly something about the character design that it is more realistic, it is more down-to-earth. It's not, like, entirely made to look exactly like my face. It's not meant to be realistic, but I mean, like, it is a very down-to-earth character design, and it does look nice. But the execution of it, again, that's where it is a little bit lacking. That's where it needs a little bit more work, especially regarding the character design, where the movements, they're not really polished. And I mean, yeah, this is mostly because of the technology that they have. I mean, I'm not expecting top-notch Pixar quality animation, but it's just you could tell that it's either the technology needs a little bit more work, or maybe it's the skills of the animators that do need a little bit more work. Like, they just need a little bit more practice, and they need a little bit more polishing in order to really perfect their craft, in order to really make it a great looking animated feature. Now, with all that said, let me just go ahead and take a little moment to talk about the characters. And on that front, it's actually a little bit of a tiny mix because there's one very prominent character, and I'm sure you would know who would it be, and the rest, well, they're just there, honestly. I mean, this is Bilal's movie, and they do take the time to really focus on Bilal. This is his movie. We are looking into his development, and we look inside his complexity of what's going on with his brain and all that kind of stuff. So really, they do make sure that this is all about Bilal. However, with that said, there are plenty of other characters in here as well, and they really do not get the attention as much as Bilal would. Because the thing with all the other characters, they're a little bit more like one-dimensional tropes in a sense. Like, you do have the helpers, like you got the wise man, you got the friend, and you do have kind of like the MacGuffin of the whole movie, which in this case would be Bilal's sister. And then you also got the villains, where you got the main bad guy, and then you also got the bad guy's son, whom I call him Master Eyebrows, because right when you're introduced to the character, he is the only person, fictional or not, on this earth that has eyebrows that are bigger than his eyes. I am not joking on it. It is just weird to look at. I'm sure probably it's his eyebrows that are dictating everything that Bilal has to do. Maybe it's the eyebrows that are controlling the whole body. You know, it's not the brains, it's the brows. But anyways, back on to what I was talking about. Of course, there's also the voice acting in here. And you might not really get a lot of recognizable people in here. I mean, for me personally, the only actor that I do recognize is actually Ian McShane, who plays the role of the main villain, Master Umaya. And other than that, I would say that the voice acting would need a little bit more work. It's not really bad, but this is not really top quality acting per se. Like, these are just more small actors that are trying to go and get the most that they can. And based on the performance that they delivered here, their acting skills might need a little bit polishing up. So yeah, even with the characters and the way that they are delivered by the actors, that might need a little bit more polishing up. It's not bad, but it could be a little bit better. So with all that said, considering that I went down with the story, the animation, the characters, and all that kind of stuff, I say when it comes to Bilal, I would probably give it a total of a 7 out of 10. This is not the best animated film that I've seen, and I do understand that this is just the first Saudi Arabian animated feature film, but I will give it that it is a good start. Now, the pacing and the execution on the story might need a bit more work, and so do the rest of the characters in order for them to grow a little bit more as much as the main character would, and maybe the voice acting as well might need a little bit more polishing. But I will say that in terms of the animation, for the most part, I am actually impressed with it. And again, the character animation might need to be something that would need a little bit more polishing up. And the story itself, it is very inspiring, it is very down to earth, and it is very fascinating to look at. So overall, I would say that this is definitely a great start. Not a great movie, but definitely a great start. Now, if you are someone who does practice a bit of the Muslim faith, or if you are familiar with the story of Bilal, then I think you would actually be very interested to check this movie out. I think this could be something that would be more right up your alley. However, if you are not someone who is familiar with the story of Bilal, this would be a bit of a rental. This would be a bit of a fascinating look to see into another culture other than your own. Like, if you have to do a study on Mecca or on Bilal or a bit on the Muslim faith and you need to find a place to know where to start, then this would be something. Maybe there are better ways to learn about the story of Bilal, but this one would not be a bad option. So overall with this, it does give me a positive outlook into the filmmaking of Saudi Arabia, or at least how they would make animated feature films. Because at least this would be a good starting point, and they could learn from the mistakes that they have made in Bilal so that they could go ahead and improve in order for them to go and create not a good animated film, but a great animated film. So this does give me a little bit of hope for Saudi Arabia's future and the possibilities that they could do in order for them to, you know, use the power of storytelling with animation. So I do wish all the Saudi Arabians and for Arabic people in general, I wish them the best of luck for them to go and create some fine-looking animated feature films. And with all that said, that is all that I've got for this review, so I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. And if you guys would like to know more about what's going on in the movie news, or if you want to hear more of what I've done in there, like if you want to see more of my reviews of like Blu-rays and movies, and you want to hear me talk about animation with the Animation Podcast, then all you have to do is just go to film-book.com, and of course they got plenty of other social media sites that you could get into. However, if in this review you like the aspect more of me, then all you have to do is just follow my YouTube channel at Electric Dragon 505, and I also got plenty of other social media sites that you could get into, rather it be on Facebook, on Twitter, or you can even go ahead and support me on Patreon, so you could go ahead and do that. So with all that said, I would like to say thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, see you later, dudes!